Hi, and welcome to the Expanded Woman Network podcast, hosted by Gideons and Misty Willis.
Good morning. Welcome, Joe. Everyone, this is Joe Davis, and she's an author, mentor for the Yes Mentor. She also is a psychic intuitive medium, and she has a great group called Lift a Sister Up. And she's my Reiki partner.
Hi, ladies. It's so nice to be here.
Glad to have you. I'm so excited. We've been talking about this for a long time, I know. So finally, and getting on here is not without struggle. I tell you, it's like,
right?
Everybody last minute. So, but
it's all good. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's interesting right now because we're all in our homes, so our setup is different. We're not in a studio setting. We're not like, it's just different. So kicking everyone out of the house and making them all go on a bike ride has been
at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Get out. Yeah. They think it's summer.
We're all asleep. Everybody's still asleep. So we've been like super night owls, staying up till God knows when every night.
Same here.
And it's so weird because I'm not normally like that. I'm a morning person and I feel so much more productive. Like even today I was like, okay, I'm getting up and like excited, but this whole thing has been interesting. So we're here to talk about you. So
all about you.
It's all about you.
Frankly, I think you guys are much more interesting, but thank you. I'm flattered.
Whatever. So tell us a little bit about what you do and your organization. We'd love to know.
It's sort of interesting because when you introduced me, one of the things you introduced me as is a psychic medium and intuitive. And I wanted to clarify I know I'm an intuitive, but the term psychic medium isn't a term I took on. It's something that my students, my family, and my friends actually kept dumping on me. They were like, all these weird things keep happening. There's something else. You need to pay attention to this. And I really was stuffing it away. And I was really, no, that's weird. I'm going to be an outcast. All of it was so uncomfortable to me that I really tucked that away for a long time. But you go to enough dinner parties and you spend enough time with people and you get these intuitive downloads that you have no way of knowing. There's no way I could know that, your dead grandmother loved ladybugs as you're talking about her. There's no way I could. And so for me, I really pushed that down for a long time until it really made me sick. Like it made me physically ill. And I think that that was a wake-up call. And I had several really crazy things come up for me that were really traumatic and were really stressful that I finally had to go, okay, I need to probably pay attention to this because when God puts you on this planet and gives you gifts, if you don't pay attention and honor those gifts, and you guys have similar stories, very similar stories. When you don't honor those gifts, you get the nudges, the whisper, and then you get the smackdown. So, and that smackdown, that smackdown can nearly kill you. I mean, that's a smackdown. Yeah. So for me, I wanted to clarify that's not something I wanted. That's not something I wanted to take on. Because let me tell you, there's a million other things that are much more pleasant. For me, at least, it's been a learning and a little bit of a struggle. So I'm trying to honor this thing and trying to exercise it with some grace and ease. And it's still a learning experience, but that's why I teach a course on intuition, because I don't think I'm different. I don't think I'm special. I think that every single one of us gets these nudges and whispers, and it's a gift. Sure. And we ignore them because we have bills to pay and we have jobs to go to and we have responsibilities, and our family that was raised in a very strict church upbringing will think we're weird, and you know what I mean? And you know what I mean? Right. So, and Sherry, you might have something to speak to a little bit about that, but
we're super glad to have you. I mean, that's what we really want to talk about is we want to bring forward some of these gifts that are, other people have, but are afraid to come forward with, afraid to talk about, afraid to even acknowledge in themselves. And, like you said, even myself, I met with a lot of fear and people judging me and people making fun of me, because I was speaking about things that I had been awakened to from a near-death experience. And, back in 1997, people weren't ready to hear it. But, I realize now, 23 years later, Sherry had to go through a journey. And Sherry had to let go and surrender and allow. And it's from that I was able to bring forward my own gifts and am connecting with amazing people like you, because, we attract what we are. And when we're ready to rise to the magnificence, yeah, Christy,
Misty's like,
woo, woo, woo.
I know.
Here's the fun part. The fun part is people are ready to receive. And, I realized a long time ago that I'm not here to convince people of their truth or, tell them, hey, this is what you need to do in order to change your life. I'm here to be a messenger and allow myself to be spoken through, just like you. And I love hearing what you said, because intuition is one of our greatest gifts. And so speak a little bit more about that. Tell us about, what is your intuition and how can you access it? How do you do that?
So when I teach my courses on and they're specifically geared around intuition, and the ultimate goal of the coursework is that at the end, people are sitting in the seat of their soul. People are a witness of their awareness. People are sort of disconnected from what's happening around them. They're not all swimming in the mud. They're able to see, okay, this thing is happening in my life and I'm not really in control and I need to surrender to it. And I need to not be egoically attached to it. And I'm just going to watch it and allow it and go, okay, what parts of this journey do I need to learn from? Who are these souls that have stepped into my life to teach me, to love me, to hurt me, to whatever it is, so that I can move to that next space of growing and evolving and whatever. Because this is a classroom. I mean, it really is. And these things that keep coming into our life, if we don't pay attention to them, that's where it gets hard. That's where we're like, gosh, my life is an uphill battle. And that's where you talk about your truth. Well, your life's an uphill battle because you're not embracing your truth. Maybe you don't see it. Maybe you're resistant to it. Maybe you care too much about other people think. It could be a million things. But this season that we're in right now is so important. We're all in this quarantine space. And what I'm seeing is that there's this big division. Huge, and it's getting wider and wider and wider. And when you look around at the people in your life, your family, your friends, social media, you're going to see these two gaps of people, and they're people that are walking in love and people that are walking in fear. And people that are in fear are disconnected. It's like a roadblock for your intuition. And they're in a powerless state because they're like, okay, now I'm stuck at home. I'm not able to socialize. I'm not able to get this external validation that I crave, which I get it. I struggle. I get it too. I'm not like, my halo's crooked. Sometimes I misplace it. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. But, where we're not able to get that external feed. So we're all jumping into social media, which could go one of two directions, depending on your circle. It could be a space of fear where you're all clogged up. I call it, what is it? Spiritually constipated, where you're just frozen and you're reading all these numbers and all these diagnoses and all these deaths and it's just like scrolling through the feed and you're locked up. Right. So if you're locked up, you can't feel your intuition. That red phone to God is like all fuzzy and staticky. Right. So if we can separate ourselves from that fear and recognize, we're all on these individual paths. It's like a million highways. We're all going to end up kind of in the same place, maybe, but we're all on individual highways. Sometimes we intercept, with each other. Sometimes we cross lanes, but we're all ultimately in our own car. Right. So as all this interference is coming in and all of this feedback we're getting externally, it's overwhelming. And so we can't connect with our intuition. Simply put, you're either operating from love or fear. And if you're operating from a place of love, you can be in your car on your life path, sort of taking in everything that's coming and going, but you're not attached to it because you've surrendered. Just like you said, you've surrendered. You've let go of the need to be in charge, to be right, to be holding on to everything so tight that's yours. You've let it go. You're not in control. You've handed everything over to your higher power. And when you do that, you're in a, the seat of your soul. Gary Zukav talks about it. You're in the space of love and compassion, and you're seeing the things come and go and the people come and go, and you're loving them and you're having compassion and empathy for them. And you're recognizing they're there for you to teach you to serve your highest good or to steer you in the direction of your sacred contract. So you're just observing. And when you're in that space, you get this clarity, those nudges and whispers. You're like, oh, I get that. Oh, that means this, or that means nothing. Or, oh, that's someone else on their path. I'm sending them love. I'm sending them prayers. I'm sending them grace because they're struggling. And it might be interfering with my path, but it's not about me. So
what are some ways that you can do that? I mean, I know for myself with my clients, one of the things that is hardest for people when they're beginning on this path is to know the difference between their ego and their past, which is their subconscious mind, and to really follow their intuition in a way that they know that it's leading and guiding them, because people are trying to figure out the difference. And then here's the real clincher: it's getting them to the point to apply it, to really want it enough to change their lives.
So I just realized I just dumped a lot of information out just now.
Yeah. Well, because I know how people
That's a lot.
feel, and I know that, and I'm like you. I want to give the information because I want so badly to help people. But I also know that a lot of people don't know anything about this, and they don't know how to start.
So I would say opening up your heart and opening up your mind. So in moment to moment throughout our day, let's say, for example, you're sitting in a moment and you're struggling, and your grandmother has passed away, and your grandmother was always the person that was like, you're going to be just fine. Like, she was your safe place. She was your safety net. And let's say your grandmother, this is just an example. This is out there, but it's an example. Your grandmother loved butterflies. So you're sitting outside and you're longing for your grandmother to just hold you and hug you because you're stressed out and you're going through so much, right? And a butterfly comes over and lands on your knee. People think, oh, that's nice. My grandmother loved butterflies. No, that's your grandmother. That's the way, I mean, God is generous. The universe is loving and gives us these gifts all the time, and we miss them. So I think the first key when people are on this path is recognizing their higher power hasn't left them. You're not going out and seeking that. It's in you. It's a part of you. It created you. So you're never alone. So this time that we're in right now of chaos, first of all, people recognizing you're never alone. You've never been alone. And if you felt alone, it's because you were congested. You were full of fear, and it was all your, intuitive, side was all clogged up. So I think little things like that, recognizing little things like that, if you're going to take baby steps, just opening your mind to the fact that you're not alone, and these little things that happen around you, like you're running late for work and 5 minutes ahead of you, there's a horrible car crash. That's divine good stuff. That's a reminder we are never alone. Something out there is looking out for us. Call it whatever you want. But I think when people begin their spiritual journey, I think recognizing that they need to really let God out of the box that we put him in. I know a lot of us were raised in really uptight homes, and things were really like, if it's not this and if it's not in the Bible, it's evil. And I'm like, okay, well, there's a lot of stuff that's missing from the Bible. And men wrote it. And I think that as God allows us to evolve, he's also evolving. As we change, he's changing with us. I mean, he is a constant, but yet he's moving along on this journey with us. We're not all, we're not in horses and buggies anymore. We're not, in Roman times. And I expand to the what if, because that imagination is so important. It's such a blessing. And it's such a space that we think, oh, that wasn't a sign. Oh, that was nothing. That was, and meanwhile,
I think a lot of us kids.
Yep.
My internet's tripping. Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
There's too much congestion on the internet right now. No, but I was saying, like, I think as a kid too, we're like told like, oh, that's silly. That's a silly story. Like it's that we're told to suppress all of the things that we have the abilities to do too. And that for me was a huge problem as I was growing up, and even into my adulthood, was a huge problem. Was like you're expected to be this way. You have to act a certain way. You have to do certain things and not be allowed to really be who you are or experience those gifts. So it's nice as you're older. And I think you're either way more open-minded as you get older or you're even more closed. So reflection, just using your life as an example to open up. So anyways,
and that closed.
Let me say something for a second in reference to that. Don't you think, Joe, that is related to so many people conditioned to look outside, conditioned to look at the appearances of what's going on in their outward environment, and they're all, when you say congested, they've got all this internal emotion and feelings. I like to call them vibrations and frequencies, going on inside of them, and they're putting that out. And what you give, you receive. So they're having this, experiences show up of fear and everything out in the mass media that's projecting what's going on in here. And they're attached to it. And so what they're doing is creating more of it. And they're so unconscious of how they're doing it and that they're doing it that they create more of that. So let's speak to that a little bit.
Well, I mean, your gut is always screaming. Your gut is always telling you, go here, do this, don't do that. This person's not good for you. This person isn't going to get you, or that job isn't, a part of your sacred contract. Like we're all getting these gut feelings that are steering us and trying to help us. But if we're always externally, looking for, validation, we're always externally looking for, we're seeking out here. And really, when you meditate, you're seeking in here. And in here is connected to up here. So, I totally 100% agree with you. I feel like, we all show up with everything we need. I mean, when you look at a baby, they know everything. They know everything. You look in their eyes and they're all like, well, this is great. I was all warm and curled up and cozy. And now, I mean, no baby's born smiling. They're like, oh crap, what, so, but they know everything. And then we jack them up. Like Misty said, they're suppressing all these gifts. They're talking to their invisible friend. Really, y'all? I mean, come on. Right. I mean, if you're in your 20s and you talk to your invisible friend, you have a diagnosis. But when you're a kid,
when you're personality disorder.
When you're a kid, they're like, oh, it's just your imaginary friend. And all of a sudden, all these things about their dead grandfather they've never met. But we stuff that away in children. And anyway, we all have these amazing gifts. And I just think that I would love to hear what you have to say more about the, as far as the gut, and seeking that external validation and how we get really jacked up in that process. Sherry, I would love to hear more about that from you.
Part of it is we come into this conditioned environment, and we, like you said, we come in with this beautiful, beautiful soul, and that soul knows absolute freedom and love, pure love at its highest form. And then we come into this so-called family, and that family gives us our values, our beliefs, our modeled behaviors. If your parents, were ones that's, were very fearful, or your father was an overachiever, and you tend to take on all of those beliefs. And then you enter into the outward environment of the school system, and you develop friends, and you take on their beliefs and their judgments and their fears. And before we know it, we have, I like to call it viruses in the computer. We have these viruses that are duplicating in our operating system. And if you think of an operating system, when you very first get a brand new computer, it's out there on the information highway, and it's getting you everywhere you need to go like that. But once viruses start to come into the computer, just like viruses start to come into our habits of thinking and habits of doing and being, then what happens? It gets bogged down, and we, don't get our needs met as quickly. And we take on all these false truths about ourselves. Like one of mine was not good enough, not worthy, not enough. And then, for my mother, I got there's lack, limitation, and scarcity. And I've said this to my mother a million times. I'm like, because now I speak my truth. I speak openly because I want to grow. But when you getting back to the idea of the gut goes, or ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that we listen, because a lot of it is getting still long enough to listen, because it's always there. And the gut, it's a feeling you feel. And it's more located in the solar plexus region. And it always tells us, the right answer. I mean, a lot of times what happens truthfully is we'll have these certain things come in that are a mirror of a part of ourselves. Sometimes there'll be an experience that'll show up that has to do with, not feeling worthy or not feeling enough or wanting to fit in. And instead of observing it as being in front of us, we want to go out there and do everything possible to be liked or loved or accepted. And, using myself for an example, I've learned to live more in the now. And what is my choice in the now? I want to feel good. I want to feel happy. And I want to feel what I call meaning. Mm-hmm. And interestingly enough, yesterday I was on an interview with Viktor Frankl's grandson, Alex Beasley, and he was his grandfather was the one that wrote the book Search for Meaning, that was, from him being in the concentration camps in, Germany during the war and all of that. And he was talking about meaning. And he was saying that, we have to live today and search individually for what is meaning for each of us. That's a quest that each of us has to go on, and recognize that, all this other stuff is created by us. It's all these emotions and feelings and perceptions that are created inside of us. And we're attracting what we are. We're attracting experiences that are mirrors of what we are. But instead of observing it and looking at it from a place of, whoa, okay, if it's showing up and it's a part of me, somewhere in me, I'm putting that out. That's the cause of what's showing up. But most of us don't want to take responsibility for what's showing up. We want to be the victim. And instead of looking at it without attached emotion and saying, hey, well, thank you for showing up, because you're showing me a part of me that I don't want to connect with. I don't want to align with. So I can release you anytime, because I have that infinite power inside of me. I have volition. And so I just merely look at it and say, thank you. And then I connect with what I really want. What I really want is to be with an amazing woman like you right here, right now, in this very moment, talking about what I'm passionate about. Woo, does that feel good? With my unique, beautiful self, I feel my gut at that very moment that I said that, saying, yes, yes. That's what I'm talking about.
And our body is always telling us things. Like, our body is always like, I've had a few things recently that my gut was screaming one thing, and I thought my gut was afraid. I thought that was fear.
Okay.
And my gut was really telling me now's not the time. And I was like, ooh, because I was like, is that me or is that through me? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and it's interesting too. I always tell people, think back when you were a kid. Did you have a lot of stomach aches? And I always tell, I did an interview a while back with Sue DeCaro, which she's amazing. She's a conscious parenting coach.
Ooh,
And she
nice.
works with Dr. Shafali. If you need a parenting coach, oh my gosh, she's an amazing person. Very talented, very gifted, very intuitive, very wise, like so wise. And we're talking about, how, our kids, they'll say, "Oh, I have a stomach ache."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, "Oh, it's not always the stomach ache. It's okay, what's going on at school? What's unresolved? What fears are you holding on to?"
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same with adults. So, when I'm working with students, I'll ask them, when you were a kid, did you have a lot of stomach aches?
Mm-hmm.
And I see that connection, or did you get a lot of migraines or tension headaches? Did you start going to a chiropractor when you were young because you had neck and shoulder pain because you're carrying everything? You're an empath and you're carrying all the pain of your friends and you think it's yours, and it ain't. It's not yours. And then that's what we do. And so it's funny when we talk about our gut, I'm like, your body is always talking to you. Your body is always talking to you. Your body is like this tool for your soul.
Mm-hmm.
And so we miss that all the time. And I love how you say your gut is like, it's so simple.
Mm-hmm.
It's so simple, and we make it all complicated, and we get up here.
Mm-hmm.
And this up here is not, it's a tool in your toolbox. It's not everything though. Your gut is just, it's funny, in February, about the end of January, beginning of February, I kept telling David, I said, I have this feeling I need to pull all my money out of retirement, out of my 401k plan, and just put it somewhere and just let it sit. And I said, it sounds crazy. I said, it makes no logical sense. And I couldn't stop thinking about it. I was thinking about it in the morning. I was thinking about it at night, first thing when I woke up, and it was just driving me batshit. And he said, if this is weighing on you, just do it. Your gut, your gut's not steering you wrong. And so I was like, okay. So about the middle of February, I pulled all my money out of retirement. All of it.
Wow.
All of it. And I just let it sit. And about 2 weeks go by, 3 weeks, and what hits the fan. And David was like looking at my numbers. He goes, you would have lost like $50,000 on this one investment, just one.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh. And then I look back in January at all my students, and I'm like, several of them have autoimmune issues. And I'm like, you need to focus on strengthening your immune system, like your life depends on it. And I don't know why I'm telling you this. Sorry, I'm having like hair issues.
Girl, you and me both.
Well, I haven't put makeup on in like a month or done my hair, and I've forgotten how to do it. And I have all this gray. Anyway,
You look great.
as I'm on my sofa in a nice little yogi position. But I was telling all these students with these autoimmune issues, I said, I don't want to scare you, but I feel like in my gut, this would be the focus of the beginning, the first 6 months of 2020. Focus on your health. I like your life depends on it. I feel like it's important. Cut out sugar, cut out carbs. I said, I don't want to get too up in your business, but you're asking my opinion. You're my student. This is a lesson in learning. Let's go through this learning lesson together. Let me give you what I have. And this is what I'm getting.
And you know what she brings me the first time we like meet in person? She brings me like a whole packet of vitamin D.
I don't know why I'm bringing you this, but I'm supposed to bring you this.
Like, okay, I take it, but it was like 10,000. It was, a big amount. So I was like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and now I look.
Needed it. We're
crazy.
stuck in
Something.
Stuck in our houses.
Right. But I had another gal that was like, hey, what are your thoughts? Like, I'm thinking about, like, she was going through this expanded like process and in her spiritual and professional and personal growth, where she was just like ready to be open and taking on new adventures and feeling fierce. And I'm like, ooh, when you're feeling that, let's take it and run with it. Right. That's what we do. Like, let's go, because we're out of the way and we're open and we're trusting that the universe is going to help us, and the universe has our back. Right. So I love Gabby Bernstein, by the way. The universe has our back. So she's like,
that for a second, because one of the things that people say to me all the time is they're like, what does it mean the universe has my back? I want you to speak to it from your perspective.
Girl, so when I think about that, I think about the universe wants us to have prosperity, loving relationships, adventures, all the things that our heart desires, the universe wants for us. The thing is, we can't get to those things if we're stuck in our own idea of what that is. So for me, like part of my teaching, we go through a session where we create a vision board. We create this beautiful vision board, and then we kind of set it on fire. we burn that mofo, right? And the reason we do is because I don't know how many times I've made vision boards, walked past them and been like, oh, look, there's a picture of Greece. And I'm beating myself up because I haven't been to Greece. And I'm beating myself up, and I'm all in my ego space and that negative chatter of unworthiness, and you haven't accomplished what you set out to, and you didn't do what you said you were going to do, which is this accomplishment. And so I go through this process of burning the vision board or something like that, because I believe the universe has something so much greater. I would have never imagined losing a 6-figure job, losing all my friends that I thought were my friends. They were just coworkers putting up with my butt, right? They were just putting up with me. They were stuck with me. We were in quarantine together at work. But I would have never imagined 5-6 years later that I'd be teaching courses on helping other women be empowered and self-exploration and self-discovery and finding their power and stepping into surrender and embracing, possibilities, limitless possibilities, and manifesting things in their lives through their words, through their mind, and their emotions, and then tuning in and listening to their gut to help them guide where they need to go, which may not look like what you think it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
That's the hardest part, I think, is that we have in our minds like what we're trying to achieve and how it is. Like, for instance, this is kind of aside a little bit, but years ago in 2014, I finished my degree, which that was a long time. I've been out of school a long time, finished my degree. And the whole reason I wanted to finish my degree is because I wanted to work for Lockheed Martin, which is a defense contractor, right? And I was in the aerospace industry. So all this time I have this degree, and I'm like, well, that's literally the only thing that I had in my head that I've not accomplished. And I was like, okay, well, this sucks. It's not going to happen. No big deal. Not to say it's going to happen now. I don't know, but I have a feeling I'm going to be working for Lockheed Martin soon. But I do. And my friend, she works for Lockheed, and she's like, oh my God, your resume is great. Let me refer you. She's like, you need to apply to at least 50 jobs. Like, oh my gosh. So I am. And I'm like, okay, but I have this feeling that that's the one goal or one thing that I had in my head, but that was literally, when I first started that whole process, literally 10 years ago. So it may look a lot different.
And isn't it cool too? Isn't it neat too, Misty, how you had this idea, but you opened up your heart and your mind and you let it sort of sit over there and simmer?
It did.
So the universe could guide you in all these other directions, which is mentoring women, supporting women, teaching women, encouraging women. Just all of the stars that align to connect you with Sherry and then connect you with me. It's just the whole thing's crazy. But I look at this and I think that's where we talk about, Sherry, getting out of your way. And connecting with that by being in a space of surrender. And there's this powerful thing that happens in your gut, in your body, in your vortex or whatever's around you when you just throw up your hands and go, I give. I surrender to whatever bigger thing the universe has for me. And when, Sherry, you talk about what that looks like, the universe has your back, it looks like this. It's tricky, right? So you have to go through some heartache because that's how you learn. You have souls step forward in your life that hurt you or betray you or leave you or are awful to you or abandon you or don't understand you. And it's painful. But if you're sitting in that space of, okay, this experience is really to serve me because the universe has my back, because the universe is growing me so that I can be ready for the thing that's coming. Somewhere under the surface, it's manifesting because my heart is in the right space, because I'm trying to walk the walk, because I'm sitting in a space of love and compassion for others and empathy for myself and grace for myself that we so givingly give to other people, but yet we're the last person to give it to is ourselves. But the universe has your back doesn't look like what we think. It's not all roses and, fields of gold, and it's hard. So
I like to describe it like this. The littlest soul could know itself as the light. But the littlest soul couldn't know itself if it hadn't known itself as the dark, because we come into the body as this infinite soul. This, I like to call it, divine intelligence, infinite intelligence. You can call it God, your higher power, the universe. Those are all words to describe allness. I am. And so I like to describe it like this. If you look at a V, at the top of the V is what we call first cause. It's masculine. It's the I am. We don't realize that this I am, this infinite energy that is everywhere present, is within us and it lives through us. And so we've all been given volition, which is choice, free will. And so when we have a thought, so at the top, first cause, that thought gets dropped into the V. So you could imagine that cog on the wheel, that part of us that is like the womb of a woman. So thought gets dropped down. It's the feminine, so it's creative. And it's in the gestation process. So you have a desire. It's in the gestation process. And the feminine is saying, yes, yes, yes. That's a law of attraction. So the yes is to the good and the yes is to the bad. And so if we're giving power to the thought, it's just like a seed growing in that gestational process, law of attraction. So the more energy, the more focus we put on a thought, the more we give it power. It's like Abraham would say, every 16 seconds, upon 16 seconds of thought that goes in analyzing, rationalizing, or scrutinizing a particular thought, it's growing. We're watering that seed, and we're either watering it and the weeds are growing and creating the yes to what we don't want, or we're watering the seeds with joy and passion and expectation and allowing. And it's growing what we really want. But we have a habit, just like brushing our teeth. We know that serves us. But ultimately, we have a habit to put our focus on what we don't want. And so when we have, using the law of attraction as example, when we have experiences show up in our now moments that don't feel good, we want to go into the blame, or we want to go into the non-accountability, or we want to be fearful. But going back to the V, when we know that it's in this gestational process, it eventually has to be birthed. And is it going to be birthed in the direction of what we don't want? Because it's always showing us, based on our beingness, what's going on inside of us, because whatever's showing up is a mirror of ourselves. And so in that second that it's showing up and it doesn't feel good, we have the power. We are so freaking powerful that we have the power to do what? Turn our thoughts away from what's showing up and recognize, what is this teaching me? How can I learn from this? What is the lesson in this? And then put our focus back on what we really want. And so what I have trained myself to do is live in the freaking moment and recognize, hey, you don't serve me. And so and then I begin to speak what I really want. I love being in moments right here, right now with someone like you, discussing these things that help people, discussing these things that lift people up. Woo! As I speak it, the chills run through my body, and I feel God bumps all over, because that's truth. But I go deeper. What I really want is to be in a gas station, in a grocery store. I want to be anywhere in the moment that allows me to lift people up to a greater, grander expression of who they are. Woo! As I speak that, I feel those chills getting even more. You know why? Because I become the child in that moment. I've become the little girl that I deserve to be. And we've forgotten that. We've forgotten how to put our focus on what we really want, instead of giving our attention to what we don't want. And I like to describe it like that. The universe has our back because we are the universe. The universe is in us, through us, as us, to the degree that we allow. And we have the choice.
I love that. I'm so visual too. Like I've never heard that V description. I'm like, oh, that makes sense because we're all, and I wrote an article several months ago about we're curating our life.
Yes.
We don't realize we're doing it. So that V is so perfect because if you've got a V, you're curating everything.
That's correct.
And in that swirling space of going, okay, does this serve my highest good? Does this resonate with my gut? You know, which is my highest good?
Yeah.
Or is this a lesson I need to learn? Because even the lessons we can't run from. I mean, we still have to. They just keep, you know, whisper, nudge, smack down. I'm just thinking about all these moments, especially recently, where I've been like, gosh, just like some devastating stuff, and going, okay, what is my lesson in this? How is this going to grow me?
Perfect.
When I want to run from it, I'm like, I told my best friend the other day, I said, I know why people drink. I know why people do drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I get it. Like, I know why, because it's some of this stuff is really, really painful and it's really hard. And I could spend a lot of time out here going, what if they think this, and what if this, and driving myself insane. Or I can go, how did I screw up? Or what was my lesson I needed to learn? And how can I give myself grace and grow from this?
But we perpetuate it. See, here's the thing is when we focus on the pain, it's whatever you give energy to, because everything's energy. So if our focus is on the pain, if our focus is on the fear, that's what I was describing before. We're growing the energy, we're growing the power in the direction of what we don't want. And so when it's in the creative medium, that's called the creative medium. The V is the creative medium. In fact, I'll send you a diagram of it so you can better understand it.
Awesome.
But it's like anything, it's been described to us throughout history, how powerful we are as spiritual beings. And the thing about the creative medium is anything is eventually going to be birthed, and it's showing you, based on what's being birthed, how much energy you're giving to a particular thought or a particular feeling, because so much of it is tied to feelings. And so I like to describe it like your vibrational reader meter. If you think of a parking meter, and, the parking meter is all the way down here when it has, no money in it. And as you raise the parking meter little dial, you're giving more money to it. So you're giving more attention to making sure you have enough time. Well, the same thing applies to what's showing up in your life. What's showing up in your life is telling you who you're being, what you're putting out. And so when it's doing that, instead of attaching to the feeling vibration of what's showing up, which most of us have the habit of doom is gloom and fear, and, they want to gather together with other people and talk about, oh my God, what's happening out in the world. And what that does is grows your power together. Goes back to that old adage where two or more are gathered. So when you're gaining momentum basically in what you don't want, because people are gathering together in fear. And so, my whole thing is, what is it you really want? That's the question. The question is, what is it you really want? And that's why living in the moment is so powerful, because the clearer we get about what we want, when we recognize what's showing up, it's telling us, let go and focus on what you really want, which is joy, passion, freedom, love, light, abundance, what you deserve.
So would you say that when you're in that V, in that swirling space, and you're digesting it all, because we're humans on planet Earth, we're really here, like this is really like we're really here. And if I'm very present, then in that swirling space, that shift when you're experiencing pain, I think for me at least, that big shift comes from, where can I find gratitude?
Yes.
In this pain, which is so hard sometimes. Where can I find gratitude in this lesson that I've brought in, this pain that I've attracted? Where can I find gratitude in this? And the big picture of how is that gratitude connected to my sacred contract, my reason I'm here? How is it getting me closer to helping others, or serving my soul, or whatever that looks like. But would you say that gratitude is the big shift in that space?
Absolutely, because I've created a ritual of a morning, every single morning. It doesn't matter. I have a gratitude book, and I get that gratitude book. Well, firstly, I wake up in the morning and I look at myself in the mirror and I talk to my cells, which people think, that's woo woo and airy fairy. But let me tell you something. I've had 2 near-death experiences. I've died twice, and the greatest gift that was ever given to me is what I'm sharing with you right now. But it didn't happen overnight. I mean, when I came back into the body with this amazing awareness of who we are as spiritual beings, the world thought I was freaking nuts. This is 1997, mind you. But what had been given to me was such an amazing gift that how could I turn away from the possibility of being this version of Sherry Marie Gideons that I had been shown I came to be, that we all came to be. And so I've had to learn to apply these principles and these ways of thinking that not only serve me, that are available to each and every one of us. I mean, all of us have the gift of this infinite gift of life. So I wake up in the morning and I literally look at myself in the mirror and I say to my cells, thank you so much. Thank you for constantly regenerating. Thank you for, my arteries flowing with blood perfectly and my heart pumping perfectly with oxygen and life. I love that my skin is tight and toned. I love that I, shine a bright light. And then I look at myself in the mirror and I say, you know what? I love you. I love you. Thank you so much. And then I sit down and I have my gratitude book and I write 10 things. And I always start out my gratitude book, I'm so happy and grateful now that. And then I go into what is it that brings that greater, feeling to me? It's speaking, it's lifting people up.
I love that. I think that's such a great practice for all of us. I think in those moments, it's like if you can just get that sliver of gratitude, that sliver, it's like, that's what hope is. Hope is gratitude, because, it's just a little sliver of light. It's just a little sliver of light. And I think that people that are out there right now that are serving others in their own way during this time, that's what they're serving. They're providing a little sliver of light. And that's where, we started this whole interview and this conversation about this division, between people showing up in fear and love. And it's becoming this gap between the two. And it's easy to spot. I mean, I unfollow or block a couple people every day.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, that doesn't serve my highest good. And I think that's something we should all be doing. And we're all curating all the time. But, if you're in that space of love and openness, that's the space of gratitude. And we've seen people, I mean, one of the things I talk about in my courses, we all experience in this, none of us is going to get out of this thing unscathed, right? Like none of us going to get out of here without some scars, and none of us is going to get out of here alive, basically. But the process of living involves some hurt and some pain and some struggles, but some amazing, beautiful things too. Well, what's the difference between a person that goes through incredible trauma and comes out like Oprah versus a person that goes through incredible trauma and comes out living in a van down by the river? And the difference between those is what we're talking about right now, is that perspective, a perspective of who you are, your role and your place in this world, and what you're here to do.
Yep.
And I think as we're going through pain and hard things, if we can find a sliver of gratitude and the possibility, just entertain it, be in that imaginative kid space of, what if the pain I'm going through right now isn't about me? What if it's about things I need to grow and how I need to evolve so that I can serve others? Like you someone in an abusive relationship. Well, maybe you've come out of that and you're on the other side, but you're still talking about it like it happened last week and it's been 10 years, really? Right. So maybe that experience for you was really about going through it so that you can speak in front of a couple hundred women and inspire them that they're going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe that experience is not and it's so hard to do when you're in it. It really is. And I get that. But I know a lot of things I've been through in my life, I looked at and thought, I'm just going to look at this like maybe it's not about me, and I need to survive and overcome it so that I can serve others. Because there's other people going through this right now that might need a shoulder to cry on, an ear to bend, a hug, words of wisdom, just someone to hold space for them. So I think that's another thing in that space of gratitude, you know, that's important.
Well, part of it, I think, is, you know, so much of it is letting go of the past. I mean, I could sit here all day long and I could talk about, you know, I've been laughed at, vilified, spit upon. I've walked the streets homeless twice. You know, I've been through some pretty serious moments of adversity. I could focus all day long on all of that. But those experiences are what taught me how to meet people right where they're at. Because I know what it's like to walk through those shoes. I know what it's like to be laughed at. I know what it's like to be doubted. And, you know, what I discovered is the more that I focus on who do I want to be in today? What feeling do I want to connect with today? Well, what all of us want. I want joy. I want laughter. I want freedom. I want expression. I mean, I walk outside and, you know, people don't realize that abundance is freaking everywhere present. So what are you aligning with? You know, people look at money as abundance, but they don't realize you walk outside and, ooh, it feels so good to breathe the abundance of the air. You know, it's amazing and wonderful to see that there's trees everywhere and flowers everywhere, and I can connect with that. And that's abundance. You know, abundance is everywhere. And the more that you begin to recognize that, guess what? You start attracting in what you are. So you're attracting in more abundance. And that's the green money dollar backs too, you know, but we're trying to be so rigid and focus on, okay, this one specific thing is what I want. And if I don't get it, you know, then I'm going to be mad and angry and upset and frustrated. And then it comes back to the idea of who we are being is the cause of what's showing up in today. And so if it's showing up, take a look at it and say, okay, where am I not allowing? Where am I in the way? Because if I'm in the way, I'm literally squashing out these infinite avenues, channels, and opportunities for this energy, this infinite intelligence that is everywhere present to create and show up what it is I really want. It can't happen if I'm in the way, because what I'm giving out, I'm pulling back. What you give, you receive. That's what we're all being called to do. We're being called to go inward because we've been a humanity that has focused our attention outward on what we can get and what we can have, instead of looking in here and finding out who we really are, taking the time to really discover who we really are. That's why this is all happening. We're stuck in our homes. Yeah. We're stuck in our
Deepak Chopra was on recently, and he was talking about like what we all need to like, right. And he always talks about this, but I think even more so now, like meditation is just, we have to go inside because, well, we can go outside, but we can't go outside in the way that we want to, but we have to go inside and like figure out and help us figure out what we need to be doing. And sometimes I think like for me too, like the intuition part of things, I didn't trust them because I made so many bad decisions in the past. I trust it now, but I didn't trust it then because I made so many bad decisions, thinking it was my gut, that I didn't trust my gut at that point. So I think that meditation, the time to myself, being with myself, like, oh, I didn't like myself. How would I want to be with myself? Right.
And that's what's happening. That's what's happening right now. Yeah. People are like, I'm stuck with myself and I really don't like myself. That's what's happening. Just what you're
that
saying.
way. I'm like, this is,
Yeah.
But tell us about real quick, Joe, because we're going to have to wrap up. Sherry's got a big interview today too. So tell us a little bit about Lift a Sister Up. We want to have everybody understand like what you're offering and what you do real quick. And then
the actual easiest way to connect with me is through Facebook, through Lift a Sister Up on Facebook. It's typically the first one that pops up at the top because we have the biggest following of those groups, but it's Lift a Sister Up. Just feel free to send me a message. Primarily, really that space is just to inspire women, to cheer other women on that are accomplishing great things, interviews with other women that are a great example of overcoming, either traumatic experience or near-death experience or, fatal diagnoses, and they came out the other side and what that looked like and how it transformed their life. And a million great examples of how the universe does have your back, even though you're going through something really painful. Coming out the other side, you see the big picture and go, oh, this was what the universe did have my back. So I love stories like that. I love sharing stories like that. But it's just an inspirational page and a group for women to collaborate and connect, connecting resources with each other. But primarily through Facebook is the best way to connect with me. And then, of course, teaching coursework. Our course is called Big Mess to Big Magic, which is about helping us embrace our intuition and follow our heart and reconnect with our sacred contract and just expand and explore and move to a beautiful, adventurous space that for most of us is beyond our wildest dreams. We don't realize how powerful we are. We don't realize how infinite we are. And we are badass manifestors. So it's very important that what we're stewing about serves our highest good and operates from a very high frequency in a space of love, because otherwise, as it comes through that funnel out the other end, it ain't gonna be pretty. And I've lived it. I know it. So
that's where you get confident.
Yeah. So in teaching this course, it was originally a 4-week course, but with everything being so intense right now, I've actually condensed all 4 sessions into 2 weeks. Yeah.
Awesome.
There's a need for sure.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that myself because we have two sessions left, and
I'm so excited.
I need to get on that.
I'm so excited.
I just need to get away from my household to do that.
Go hide in your car. We'll do your session from your car. Just go to your car.
Yeah.
I got you, girl. I got you.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you
so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. I love you guys.
Thank you so much. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us today on the Expanded Woman Network podcast. Please share this out. We grow, and it helps to get this message out with others who really need it. So please share us out. And thank you so much for being here. And we'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye now.